Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. Dawn here. So glad to have you joining us yet again for another awesome episode. This one has my good friend Rob Long from Cincinnati, Ohio. Many people may not know who Rob Long is, but I'm going to let him give all of that really awesome information about himself. And I want to say that I was actually talking to my daughter. We were kind of brainstorming on some guests that we wanted to approach. And she was like, dude, ask Rob to be on it. I'm like, uh, yes, that's amazing because Rob has such a depth in specifically in volleyball, but more than that, he's a very passionate individual for his family, his faith, and everything that he puts his hands into. And I really believe that of all the people that I have on the show, he really epitomizes the idea of living your soul's goals, like our soul's goals, following what you are being guided to do, what you are being led to do, and really believing in that and trusting in it, no matter the ups and the downs that come along with it.
Mhm.
So, just before I let you kind of get started on your story, Rob, I'm going to let everybody know that Rob has his passion for aspiring athletes, specifically beach volleyball. And if you think about it, he's in Cincinnati, Ohio. Like it's a landlocked state, right? And we'll get into that later on. But I mean, gosh, you started a beach volleyball situation in Cincinnati, Ohio many years ago. How the heck? What
Mm.
the hey?
Yeah. I get that a lot. What? You know, um, but it didn't happen overnight again, and it wasn't something that just came into my mind. My life, as far as volleyball go, has been a story that my parents and my grandparents and everybody who have been a part of. My grandfather started a lot of volleyball programming at the YMCA's.
Oh, wow.
Actually, way back, in the 60s, 50s,
Yeah.
40s. And all of his sons played at the YMCA volleyball,
Okay.
including my dad. So they all had a passion for it, even though that there was no men's volleyball right and then, and
Well, yeah, like even now,
not
the
much.
growth of it is coming along, but
Yeah,
like in the
yeah. And
1960s.
everybody took every ball overhanded, and it was just a different vibe completely.
Yeah.
But it's the Young Men's Christian Association, and my grandfather was also a Christian, and um, has in a lot of ways exemplifies how I've gotten to where I'm going with the passion and purpose thing. Because my grandfather started a business um, with his brother in the 50s, container wise, with chicken
Okay.
crates and
Okay.
things of that sort in Covington, Kentucky. And then it grew into recycling drums and plastics and ended up being in, 5 different states, a multi-million dollar business of which all of his kids and our grandkids still benefit from.
Okay.
My father took over that business for my grandfather and ran that with his expertise and continued with that all the way down to us. So we are all really blessed with folks who saw vision, and
Right.
I saw that in the men and also the women in our family, but the men in our family in particular, to show me how that you can see conceptually where you want to go,
Hmm.
and God has a plan for you to get there if you put in the work. And I saw that. I saw it from my own eyes, and so it didn't seem Cincinnati Beach Volleyball Club did not seem hard to me. It seemed
Yeah.
like,
You're like,
all
no,
right,
I
well,
could
how do
do
you do it?
this.
How do you
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah.
I played beach volleyball then since my dad was into it a lot since I was, 5 years old, and
Okay.
played it all different levels. Then I played it, you know, on the juniors level, even in adult tournaments when I was coming up. I started off when I was 14. I was playing in women's doubles tournaments with my mom.
Oh, are you
So
serious?
yeah, so
I
I
didn't
always
know
got a
that.
little taste of competition, and would just hoped at some point there would be an outlet for
Yeah.
that. At that point, it really wasn't. As I graduated from high school, the opportunity so much in the beach area, so I went and played football at the University of Cincinnati for a couple of years.
Yeah. What
Um,
was your position, by the way?
I was a wide receiver. I
Okay.
was fast and I could jump pretty high and quick, but I was certainly small, and
Yeah.
got beat up a lot. So after a few years there, I decided to go to Ball State University and
Okay.
play indoor volleyball.
Okay.
and did that for a couple years. And then post that, I went out to the West Coast to train to be a beach volleyball professional. And that's when the AVP was kind of thriving. So it was really fun to go out there and take all that I'd learned through my family through the years and try to make it into, a bit of a career for a minute.
Yeah.
And I got to do that. So that was feeding into that passion of, again, seeing a vision.
Yeah.
Nobody from the Midwest was really doing that. I'm like,
No.
well, I'm going out to California, and
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
like,
Well,
really?
I want to
Yeah.
back you up for a second because
Yeah.
I just want to address the fact that you played collegiate football, decided after 2 years, I'm going to make a switch, and then played collegiate volleyball. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
to me right there, it has a lot of formidable spirit to it. It's like that drive that you're talking about with your family, and that, hey, you can do it. Like, we just make it work. We just figure it out. We jump in and we figure it out. And I
Yep.
also want to say, you were just given the title of, I'm going to read it, VP of Strategic Partnerships and Volleyball Programming for this amazing organization called P1440 that Olympian Carrie Walsh began. How many years ago was that? It's been a minute.
2018.
Okay. So it's still fairly new, but in my eyes, we've been involved in it. We've played many of their tournaments and been involved in many of their organizational components. You have been a big part of that along that way too. But anyway, we can jump back to that in a minute.
Sure.
Again, going back to that whole formidable situation that you learned from a very young age in your DNA, if you will, that nothing is not doable. That's a total double negative, but I think you get what I'm saying.
I do. And, and my sisters make fun of me, and other people do too, because they'll say, even here at my house, I'll go, okay, I'm going to put on a deck and a jacuzzi and a pool. And they're like, you've never done that before. What are you talking about? And I go, well, I can do it, and I'll go for it. And let me tell you, Dawn, failure is my middle name in a lot of those areas, but I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because of what I've seen from my grandfather and my dad, and they encouraged me to go live my dream. I never thought that it was out of the realm of possibility to actually go after it. Now, yeah, I've failed big, and just ask my wife about some of my DIY projects. And if you have a close look at them, they look DIY, but from a distance, it looks pretty good.
Sure,
I'm like,
sure.
yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
Sure.
But my sisters would always make fun of me. Is there anything you think you can't do? And I'm always a ready, fire, aim guy. It's just always the way I've been. I'll fire and then I'll refire, but I'm gonna shoot 10 times and I'll hit the target once.
Yeah.
I'll miss it 8 times, but I'll
Yeah.
hit it once. And I really believe that God honors that. The honors the desire to try to find the passion and purpose that He has for you. And when you do hit the bullseye, I think He honors that by blessing it. So that's just kind of the way I've lived my life, a bit by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it's really given me opportunities. Probably if I would have been more settled and conservative, I probably wouldn't have gotten.
Oh, for sure. For sure. If you had been afraid of failure, you wouldn't have gone for it, because I
No.
think there's so many. I mean, both of my kids are athletes, and I know a large amount of your family are, besides just yourself, are also athletes too.
Yes.
And you lose games, you lose competitions. And
Yes, you
in
do.
that failing, you learn so much vital information about how to operate, what to do, how to express, what your perspective is. And it's hard to lose, right? But
It
it's
is.
valuable to lose as well.
It's amazingly valuable. I've learned way more. And most people will say, if they're honest, you learn so much more from your losses and your shortcomings and your failures, because that kind of identifies your path and what
Yeah.
you're good at, right?
Right.
I'm not a great administrator, and everybody that knows me knows that. So they know that I need support in that area. I'm pretty creative, and I'm a hard worker. I'm not the most book intelligent guy in the world either. So I got to surround myself. But early on, I thought I could do it. I could do this, that, and the other. And I think God helps you find that purpose through failure. And if
Yes.
you go through the failure and you don't learn it, then you're getting outside of your plan, God's plan, and you're probably going to be stuck, in
Right.
some sort of way. So for me, and I was there. I got there multiple times where oh my gosh, I thought I was supposed to do this and I'm not doing it. It hasn't been all, volleyball is tough.
Yeah.
I don't, it's hard to make a living as a volleyball coach. It's hard to
Right.
make living as a volleyball director. They're bivocational very, very, very much. So for a
Right.
good part of my life, I had to do, most of my life actually. I worked, full-time jobs and
Hmm.
pursued my passion projects outside of that
Yeah.
until it was made a reality for me that I could actually go into it and do it full time. And honestly, that's probably been the biggest challenge for me, that financially, I have 6 kids.
Right.
I have a home, and, it means a lot to me to take care of them as a provider.
Right.
And if I can't do that, then I feel like I've totally failed, my
Mhm.
missional purpose. So, it was really hard to find the time. Even though I wanted to do it and I had the plan to do it, it was step by step by step by step, by failure, by success, by this worked and that didn't work, that did work, and then create a community around me, which to me in the end, community has been the blessing of my life, is to be
Yes.
able to create collaborations and communities that support like-mindedness,
Mhm.
and in the path and purpose that we're all in. I don't want to do it by myself.
Right.
I can't do it by myself, but with
Yeah.
people around me that kind of catch the vision, I've been so blessed to find people around me. You want, Dawn,
Oh, thank you.
but that kind of get it.
Mhm.
And when you get a community of people who get it, it really is there. There's no limit. There's no
Yeah, there's
there's no
strength in your
ceiling.
numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
definitely. Tell me a little bit more about what made you decide to leave Ohio and
okay.
move to California to pursue beach volleyball as an AVP player?
Again, I was driven, man, and I was always a good athlete. That was something that I've always given. I was fast and I could jump and could do some of the things that translated into sports pretty well. Again, I wasn't a straight A student, so I didn't get those good feelings in the classroom that
Right,
often. I was a
right.
straight C student.
Okay.
So all the, and in a way, I guess probably all the feedback that I got in my life was always probably mostly geared towards, wow, you're a good athlete and you do these good things. So of course,
Right,
I kind of went into, that's where I was being fed.
right,
Um, Again, I always thought I could do it. And once I finished college, I'd played so much volleyball, and I'd already, I guess I shouldn't say it was a huge jump, because I played my first AVP tournament when I was 17 years old.
okay. So
Yeah,
young, yeah.
yeah, so in Chicago, and I'd won at that age. I was winning opens around the Midwest,
Okay.
and that was because I started at 5 and was
Yeah,
playing. So I absolutely, before I even could get on the court and like hit a down ball because the ball's 8 feet high, I knew exactly how to do it. I didn't
yeah.
have to be taught. When I actually could jump and do it, everybody was like, "How did you do that in the first week?" I'm like, "I've seen it a million times.
Yeah,
I've played it in my
you've just been engrossed with it, like, it's
I've
been a big
played it
part
over
of
and over in my
you. Mhm.
mind, and I've heard it critiqued, and and I think that plays into why I'm pretty good at breaking things down nowadays, is I've seen it a billion times. I guess if you see things a billion times and you don't understand it, then something's wrong,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It
So,
just really
when
has
when
become
I
part.
got the opportunity to either at the I didn't have a job that I really wanted to go into. I didn't feel like I wanted to go into the family business.
Yeah,
I just didn't feel that.
yeah.
And my dad said, "Well, go for it, go for it." He would have
Oh,
liked to have gone for it. My dad got married his sophomore year of college,
oh, wow.
to my mother, and they
Okay.
lived in a camper, right
A
off campus, and that's how they
wow.
started. And that's how he did it. And I know he would have, of course, he and my mom were, junior high all
Yeah,
the way up.
yeah,
But if he would had the opportunity to go do it, he would have. It's
yeah.
just his life didn't end up that way. So if he could have helped me, and he did sponsorship wise and stuff, help provide an opportunity. Now, did he give it to me? No, he said, "This is what I can help you with, and the rest you get out there and you're on your own."
Right.
But he helped me to get out there and get settled, and then go for it. So really, it wasn't completely all on my own. It was,
Mhm.
being supported by the folks around me, having athleticism and having opportunities to have played at a pretty high level, and
Right.
see. And then after Ball State, we went to the Final Four when I was there. I was involved with a lot of good volleyball.
That's
So it
awesome,
wasn't like
right?
way out of the realm that I thought. And again, me, ready, aim, fire. I'm as good as any of those guys. I can go
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. If
So
not me, then who?
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
absolutely.
like everything that you're saying is, I feel like is a really God-given opportunity, right? You could have chosen not to follow through with that athletic gift that you had. You could
Hmm.
have chosen not to go forward with that adventurous kind of, "Hey, what do I have to lose?" Because you could have been afraid of what you see what I'm saying? Like, there's
I
so many
do.
your family laying that groundwork that it's okay to fail, but it's also okay to jump in and do it. You can it's everything is figure outable.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's very true. If you want to put the time and effort into it, yes, I think opportunity is still live and well in America.
Mhm.
When you identify it and do the things you need to do to get there, but it's not given to you. Certainly,
Right.
things aren't given to you. And really,
Right.
as my story goes on, as I went out to California, I struggled.
Yeah.
Don, I struggled, man. I came from a decent, fairly affluent family. Blessings
Mhm.
again. Where when I was out there on my own, I didn't have any money. I didn't
Yeah.
have, I wanted to train every day, but guess what? I had to go get some crappy part-time job so I could at least eat. I
Yeah.
lived in this big, I guess it was a mansion, but it was an old rundown one on the beach with
Yeah.
8 surfers,
Oh
and
my
me, the beach volleyball player in a 5 room place. That's what I did. And on the
mhm.
daily, I was sleeping there on the couch and, get up and, maybe get some breakfast, whatever I had, some beans and rice and go out and train.
Yeah.
But I love to train. So I love to do that kind of a thing. But it's
And how
certainly,
old
there
were
was
you at
many a
that point?
time,
Well, how
please.
old were you at that point?
22.
Okay. So still
Just
young
turned
enough.
probably 20, actually 21. I remember my 21st birthday I did have out in
Okay.
California. Yeah.
So still young enough to be like, I almost want to say like young enough.
Adventurous, a little bit
Yeah.
of an
Yeah.
adventure. Yeah.
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 Yes.
And I've always been that way too. So, it was a bit of an adventure. And um, I did know some guys on the AVP, so I got welcomed out there fairly well. But
Yeah.
even in the welcoming that they gave me, it's very much a different culture when you get out there, and those folks are territorial. And I had to play my way into
Mm,
everything. They may
yeah.
have got me on a court at a certain point, but if I wasn't doing well, I was not called the next day.
Yeah.
So it was all of that. And again, like, I'm used to living at my home, my house. I lived at college and I came and lived at my house. I never lived anywhere else other than college apartments in my home. And
Right.
like, I was supported by my family and
Yeah.
scholarships. And I'm out here in California on my own and I'm starving. And I
Yes.
don't really want to work. I worked at a place called Splashes, which
Okay.
took the intrinsical force that spins things and made things out of it, putting paint into a canister. That's what I did, and I was making probably $8 an hour and trying to piece it all together. Broke down
Right.
car. But I tell you what, yeah, I learned to get by on what I could get by. And I learned that it took a lot to pursue your dream, to pursue. And
Yes.
at that point in my life, that was my dream. I set that goal, when I left Ball State, that nothing was going to stop me from doing that. Um,
Right.
Roadblocks for sure, for sure. But and
So
bad decisions from time to time as well. But
well, I think that
you
comes
know,
along with
I
the
pushed it.
roadblocks, and I think that also comes along with your age too. I mean, you have to figure it out, and no one could do that for you. Like, you
No,
had to figure
nope,
that out. That's
yep,
hard. That's hard,
yep.
and now
It
looking back
was.
at it, like, as a father of 6 and a committed relationship for many years and numerous family members supporting you where you live, I just think I mean, you look back and you go, are you glad you did it?
Oh, I'm so glad. So for
Yeah.
so many reasons, I could have really gone a pretty safe path into very middle class. But that's just not me. Everybody that knows me would have never said that. I got married when I was 30,
Okay.
to a younger woman, thankfully. We have children. And we started having children. And really, as my story goes on, when I was really breaking into the AVP and doing pretty well, um, I s- I suffered what they call chronic fatigue syndrome.
Mm,
I went into a season not feeling so great, and I didn't know why, but I think it was over pushing my body.
yeah.
And then for 6 tournaments in a row, I got dehydrated and had to go to the hospital to get bags of fluid after each and every one. And so
Wow.
after the last one, my body did not kick back in. Um, and at that point, the dream was over.
Oh,
That
wow.
that quickly in a 6 week period. And that was
That's
when I was
when
26. That was when I
wow.
was 26 after I'd been having success, and I really was on the precipice of really getting to, the more of the mid to top level of the AVP. I contracted that, and
Yeah.
that disease specifically is chronic, and there's not really a cure for it, and it's
Mhm.
manageable. And I spent a year and a half almost bedridden,
Oh, wow.
where
Mm,
here I am, go getter. Here I am
yeah.
pursuing and doing these things, being adventurous and very physical with everything
Mm,
I've done. And that's where my feedback for who I am was coming from,
yeah,
taken
your
away
identity. Mhm.
right there. It was.
Yeah.
And I think God showed me that and did that for me to put me in a different stratosphere of understanding what life's all about.
Right.
Because again, at that age, you've heard a lot of me in this conversation so far, haven't you?
It's oh, this
Well,
about you. We wanna hear about you.
but that's what people heard back then probably too, because I'm playing multiple sports. I'm going to
Um,
California. I'm going to make the AV.
yeah.
Yeah, I was a Christian, so to speak, but was I living it? Not necessarily. And it was very much ready, aim, fire in the direction that I wanted to go.
Mm,
Um, and I think I needed to learn that there was more to life than that, and those things and my goals. And I
yes.
wasn't learning that, having success and doing some things that I hadn't had a big slap in the face. I had not. And I'm hard headed, so it's not a slap. It's usually like a 2x4 has to hit me multiple times before I say, okay, I can't do that or I did that wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so God took me out of it,
yeah.
took me out of it. I came home, and I was in bed at my parents' house for a year and a half,
Wow.
and couldn't really walk down the street without getting dizzy and anxious and lightheaded and
Mhm.
things of that sort because my body kept repeating dehydration and all these things. It got into a set pattern, and I
Mhm.
couldn't get out of it.
Wow.
So that at that point is when I think I will say some people would say that's when your life kind of I don't want to say stopped, but for me that's when my life really started.
Okay.
Because at that point I had to reconnect with God and say everything that I thought I was supposed to be and wanted to be on a worldly kind of basis.
Mhm.
Now, you're going to have to find it another way. You're going to have to find how to connect and give to people with what you
Yeah.
have because it's not your physicality anymore. It's not your ready, fire, aim personality anymore. It's how can I work with people with what I have around me and collaborate to make something special.
Yeah. Man, at
Um,
26,
and
26,
that's what I
27.
did.
Yeah. How incredibly difficult was that for you?
Awful.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, it was. I mean, I have to tell you, Donna, I was. I don't want to say suicidal because I certainly wasn't that,
Mhm.
but doubting everything.
Yeah.
I'd go to the hospital and they say there's really nothing wrong with you, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, there absolutely is. I can't do. I
Mhm.
lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
I was not the same person at 27 that I was at 26 in any way, shape, or form, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What do you
Yeah.
do with that? I got to 26 doing what I did at 26. Now I've got to go in another direction.
Yeah.
Um, and that was, again, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Most miserable when it happened, but it, I don't know where I'd be in pursuit of my own stuff, my family. That's when I met my wife soon
Yeah.
after, somebody that I never would have been looking for, because she was very settled.
Yes.
had an understanding of who she wanted to be and where she wanted to go with family and things of that sort. I wasn't that way then. Um, and it just happened. Everything started to turn in a direction that was totally different than the direction that I thought I wanted until the year and a half in bed. Um, and it ended up being exactly
What
where
you
I
need.
was supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yes,
Gosh, that's
absolutely.
incredible.
And long story short from there, I got into the volleyball thing, started working a little bit for my family company
Mhm.
while I could pursue the volleyball and the coaching and things of that sort, and slowly just continued to piecemeal all of that together until and that's a long time. From 30 to 40, I did that. By the time I was 40, I was able to be a volleyball guy, and
Yeah.
not until then. So, and before in my 20s, I was just the beach volleyball guy,
Right?
working a
Right.
so-so job. So,
Right.
pretty much polar opposite on where I went with that. Got married at 30 and had children immediately.
Yeah.
And all that became just, way more fulfilling than anything that I'd ever done or thought I could do or wanted to do
Mhm.
until,
Mhm.
a lot of the worldly stuff was kind of stripped away, and kind of my own ego and my own desires of where I wanted to go, God got to actually speak into because I allowed him more. Not
Right.
that I was a
That
bad person,
it's
but
almost
I
like a
allowed him
shedding.
fully.
Right, right, exactly. It's like a shedding of that ego. You talk about the ego. It's like but it's you're forced to shed that, and I
Yeah,
think it's interesting 'cause that happened to you at I consider 26 a pretty young age. That's a you're still figuring yourself out. You still
yeah,
have the world at your fingertips. You're still like your spirit is just like, "Hey, let's go. I got nothing to lose,"
sure.
for the most part, right?
Mhm.
And to have your world turn on a dime like that, there's a lot of self-doubt, like you said, a lot of questioning, a lot of really, who am I and what is
Mm.
this identity
Yes,
that I am?
yes.
I'm not Rob the beach volleyball player, Rob the athlete. I am Rob the person. I am Rob
Hmm.
the being that
Yeah,
has so many different pieces to me that can be potential for giving back to the community. And that I think it's interesting because I think it takes a lot of those experiences for us personally to really understand how to truly give of ourselves. And I think that's what our athletes get from you now, which I love. So now thank you for sharing that story because I was not aware of that. So that
yeah,
is
yeah.
a real piece of understanding for me to see exactly why it is that where that passion really comes from and how where it was born out of, if you will.
Right. Yeah, and it is now the passion that I was putting into myself, just for my own stuff. Which when we're young, we kind of do that and we learn. But I really did need a real stop. Um,
Yeah.
a hard stop to reconfigure my life, and I'm blessed enough to have people praying for me that I would figure it out. And then people that surrounded me that it helped me figure it out. And in the end, God's given me back everything tenfold. I'm back to being, shortly after, I kind of figured out how to manage the chronic fatigue, and some doctors helped me with my adrenals and different things. And I was able to play open level to professional beach volleyball level around the country, not AVP level
Yeah.
qualifiers and stuff, until I was 50 years old.
Okay.
Um,
So you
and
were able
and
to get back into it a little bit.
oh
So
yeah,
there became a much different focus in your game
yes,
at that point.
yeah, yeah. And then it was about relationships. It was about
Yeah.
relationships with people I played with, and then it was speaking into other players, and then it was speaking into juniors when that became a thing in 2012.
Yeah.
Um, so it really got back to being okay. How can I form communities? And and I've done it in my professional life too, because in that 10 years between 30 and 40, I opened a restaurant,
Mhm.
and then opened a restaurant chain, developed it myself, and it was all about forming a community of employees and a community atmosphere, kind of a Panera-ish,
Yeah.
cafe style place where the community would come and have a little something to eat and have conversations. And we had church groups in, we had football and baseball bat, we had all that, and we had book clubs. It just was like a meeting place for community, which is where I really, in the end, have found my calling. Um,
Yes.
and it just so happens that volleyball is my vehicle. That there's something, again, like I said, you get a million touches of something. Hopefully, you're fairly good at it. So I understand that world, the beach volley and the volleyball world in general, and how to pursue that in a technical level. But really, I wouldn't do that if I couldn't build a community around it. It would not have any fulfillment for me. People ask, "Hey, Rob, how many national championships have your kids won and since 2012?" And I'm like, 40, 50. And they're like, "What?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. In that area. And where are they all from? All over the place. It's irrelevant to me, that finish line. I love it for my people, if that's their goal. But for me, it's all about the relationship and the community.
Mhm.
Um, and I get way more out of that than I do the actual award at the end of the day. I get more out of helping somebody find their passion, their goal, their purpose, and build them into a community of support than I do anything else that I do.
Yeah.
Um, so I get to do now I get to do um, talk, like you said, what my soul was made for. I
Right.
can't think of anything else that I would rather do than what I am doing, and what a blessing that is. People have poured into me now. Uh, you know, Opportunity, and God has given me up more opportunity now that He's got me where He wants me,
Yes. Yes.
completely in full, and I've been able to accomplish a whole lot more, and it just keeps going more and more and more. Really, it's gotten crazy in the last couple years. As the beach volleyball thing specifically has just continued to grow.
Right.
And with Carrie Walsh Jennings, of course, being the most decorated beach volleyball player of all time,
Mhm.
I'm in her corner and she's in my corner, and we found a very cohesive relationship where we actually, I love you, I love you. It's that kind of relationship, which is weird. Carrie Walsh Jennings, I was never that level. But
Right.
we really, and it's not about, when we say that, it's not about volleyball. It's
Yeah.
about, we found a kindred spirit
And
in helping
kindred
others
spirit.
achieve, yeah, to find what they want to achieve in life and support each other in doing that in the right way. So that kind of got us to 1440.
Right.
As I did some things around the country nationally myself and started to build that community, that greater community,
Right.
on my own. 1440 recognized that and asked me, would I do that for that organization?
Yes.
Um, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that for you, Carrie. Yeah, yeah, I absolutely would do that.
Yes. So
Um,
for the folks that don't know what 1440, P1440 is, give the background of what the number 1440 means, because Carrie
yeah,
Walsh and
yep.
started this
Carrie Walsh
based
Jennings is the founder, and really post the major part of her professional career, she did not want to do things that were just volleyball related. She
Mhm.
wanted to give back. And there's 1,440 minutes in everybody's day. That's how many minutes are in a day, to serve your purpose or to have your best minute or to use those minutes. And that's something that's resonated with me. Being present in the moment, using your 1,440 minutes to be your best self. That's kind of what we say.
Right.
And that was kind of her mantra. And it spoke to me as we started to get to know each other. Um, and that's kind of where everything she and I together have gone. Yes,
Right.
there's volleyball programming. Yes, again, that's our vehicle because we happen to have her name and my ability to teach it and do things, and support of some really great investors and people who like what we do. Of course, it
Right.
doesn't happen without that.
Right.
And really be able to take things to a level that, other than the AVP, and not so much in the juniors world. And I think USA Volleyball, we've been able in about 5 years to create a niche within the sport that is unique, not because of the high level of volleyball, but because of the community
Yes.
that we're
Totally agree.
forming, and because of those, the emphasis on not just volleyball. And it's
Right.
funny, when you do those kind of things, guess what? The volleyball gets a lot better, and the
Yeah.
kids get a lot better, and they feel a lot freer. When they understand that there's more than the volleyball. Once they
Yeah.
understand that, it seems to be very freeing, to,
And you
to
play
to
differently
to go
then.
after it.
Yes, yeah, and you trust and you feel that support, and I think that's an invaluable thing that kids can take. If you talk about the juniors level with P1440, they can take that as they go on to their college career, or if they choose not to play in college, if they go on and start a family and they're 40, 45 years old and they go to the beach for a vacation and they pick up a volleyball and play with their
Yeah,
with their kids,
absolutely,
it all
absolutely.
just translates.
It all sport translates so much over to life, and you've sat into some of my mindset talks that we just talk about how, partnering with a partner is a relationship, and how do you form a good relationship, and you're going to form a lot of relationships in your life, and this is how you do it, and this is how you do it, and they cross over so
Yeah.
much. So these girls on the court are going through things relationally that they're going through outside too, and if they're
Yes.
able to handle a relationship on the court, then they're able to better handle their relationships outside.
Yeah.
And what it takes to be a good partner off the court, and support and all those kind of things. It's just, I think it translates so well.
Mhm.
There's not another sport that I know of specifically that you just work with a partner.
Mhm.
Maybe rowing or some of those kind of things, but beach volleyball is unique in the doubles formatting, that you are only as good as the person next to you,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is not just their bump pass spike, because it gets hot, it could be rainy, it could be, you can be, there's things happening in your that just volleyball kind of goes away, and you have to know how to support each other, build each other up, play on each other's strengths and weaknesses, good days, bad days, things are happening off the court. It's just very much the ability to handle that, I
Mhm.
think prepares them very, very well to handle boyfriend, girlfriend,
Yeah.
mom, dad, sisters, brothers, boss, all the relationships that you end up having in your life. The same principles apply. And I like to talk a lot about those things because,
Yeah.
again, this is what volleyball, maybe you're doing that for now, and maybe you're going to do it in college. A lot of our elite kids that we work with are very blessed in talent as well, and they get to really cool places and do cool things. But in the end, they're going to have a whole life of
Mhm.
relationships and trying to form community around those relationships. That's
Yes.
that's end game for me, and that's success.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because when we air this, it's gonna be shortly after the Olympics have wrapped up, and so America is seeing beach volleyball and seeing the 2 people have to work together, and have seen some pretty intense matches and
Yeah.
some challenges for the teams to have to overcome, whether it be in the score or whether it be a mentality or whatever it is. I think it's interesting too, and I love that you're introducing that mindset kind of situation for teenagers, because it's not something that they would think about doing. And with that information, it's going to make them go just a little bit deeper when they're in a place of struggle on the court, when they're like,
Or
I'm
off the court,
really
right?
upset that we're not doing well. And then how do you handle the relationships off the court? It's
Right.
such a
When they're
mirror
not going well. Yep. There's
when they're
there's
not.
such a cohesiveness to the two that it's the same skills.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that Kelly Chang and Sarah Hughes, they have they've gotten a new thing where they hold hands, right? When they go across the court with each other, or to a timeout, because holding hands, if you're holding hands for somebody, it's hard not to be connected.
Right.
And they had problems in the past kind of being disconnected
Yeah.
at times and going to their own corner. And they've figured out ways to solve that. And that's something that they'll probably carry into their lives. I need to make eye contact with this person when I'm feeling disconnected. There's
Mhm.
just ways I think we learn to overcome things in sport, and deal with things that so much shows who we are as people and how we can relate and do those things off the court, as well as tools to have great life experiences and really good, strong relationships. So I love that stuff. I learn more about that than I do. Volleyball is a pretty, it is what it is.
Oh, I
There's
love
not,
it. Yeah.
there's not a lot of, we're not creating the wheel, we're not rewriting books when it comes to beach volleyball. It's definitely there's more things,
Yeah.
but there's still a basic principle, and it doesn't take an Einstein to figure those things out. But the players that become great, and the people who become great and good people in life and relationships, are the ones that figure all the extracurricular things out, which is mental, emotional, spiritual, all the things. I don't know too many people that are doing a great job at work when their marriage is about to fall apart. Or,
Right.
it's just all, and it's the same thing on the court. I don't know if you're thinking about something that's happening somewhere else and you're not locked in, you're probably not going to be successful. So all
Yes.
those things play they're so intertwined, and we like to compartmentalize them sometimes,
Yeah.
and then put all of our value into those things. And that's the other thing, Don, that I would say is a big deal to me, is that
Mhm.
kids don't put all their value into this club sport thing.
Right.
It's taken over our society for the good or the bad. It's
Mhm.
out of the box. I don't know if it's ever going to go back in.
Yeah.
But playing one sport at a high level over and over and over and over again, and that's where you're getting your affirmation. That's where you're getting most of your critique. That's where you're getting so many things that are creating who you are, that it becomes your identity.
Yeah.
And that I'm fighting really hard against that. I don't want that to be, the identity of anybody that I coach.
Right.
There's that song, and I think I've played it before. You don't have to be somebody, because I'm already somebody to you. And it's talking about, I'm already somebody to you, God. So I don't need to be somebody. I know who I am and all these other facets of my life. Now I'm free. Now I can go for it because I'm already somebody to you.
So free.
That's kind of
So
my
free.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
it's really hard for teenagers to not get that fear of missing out, fear of, and
Hmm.
parents too can be that way. Yeah. I mean, I have friends that have struggled with that with their kids, and the balance between
Absolutely.
the two. And just knowing that I really think it's a very valuable information. You are not your sport. You are
No.
you are you, and what
Yes.
you bring as a person. Sport is just another thought bubble, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Another
It's
facet of your life that's probably temporary in some ways. I mean,
sure.
y-
Like you had that, your experience was very, I mean, it was 5 or 6 years long, but it was very temporary. When it came to a
yep.
stop, it was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yep. And I pray that people don't have to go through those big
Yeah.
moments
Yeah.
to really find it. And I wish I could have found that early on, because I had so many more opportunities as I was coming up from,
Mhm.
through high school, through college, to probably be something different than I was. But I was very concentrated and focused on my own goals, and which is not bad. Athletes, some competitive, are focused on that, but there certainly is. There was never going to be a volleyball tournament that I could win that would have given me true feeling of fulfillment. There isn't. I won some big ones. Won the $10,000 tournament. Great. Okay. Guess what? It was next tournament, and if I lost there, I was back to not feeling good about it. I
Right.
mean,
That roller
and
coaster.
it's just a roller coaster ride,
Mhm.
and you don't want to live that way. And that's unfortunately where a lot of people are. It's on your accomplishments, whether that's at your job, whether that's,
Mhm.
um, I know people that are addicted to community service, and that's where they get all that, which you think would be a great thing,
Yeah.
but they're getting everything, all their feedback from that, and they're now, if I'm not doing those things, I have no value. You know,
Yeah.
that's when it goes really back, again, to me, the Christian, all goes back to Christ for me in the end. I don't know, that's too much for this podcast, but that's just
No,
really
that's good.
where it all goes back to me, and finding a foundation that's greater than the daily to daily, and a goal that's greater than myself and my own things, and a
Mhm.
finish line that's way shinier. And that to me is what I hope that I can give back to my athletes. And of course, we don't always talk in Christian language, but you don't have to.
Right.
There's many ways to model it and to share, and then be there for questions as people make their own decisions about, their religion, or their next move. I always want to be there to support any of it. I always tell my kids, if tomorrow you decided you wanted to be a hot dog eater contest person, bring the buns over the house and let's get at it. I
Oh,
don't care that much about the volleyball part of it. And let's figure out how we get these buns in your mouth.
yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't matter to me which direction we go. Once I have a relationship with somebody and they've given me the opportunity to speak into their lives, there's no greater joy, and there's no more that wakes me up every day.
Yeah. I know you said you hope that people could get to that point sooner and not along the same lines that you did by having to go
Yeah.
through the situation, health related, that you did. Is that something you would change if you could change one thing in your life? Would you alter that for you?
That's so hard to say, Don, because, I think all that made me, all those, pursuing all those things that didn't get me to the end line. I
Mm,
guess millionaires are, other than, military people, have the highest suicide rate, which is sad because they've got that you keep climbing the mountain, you get to these things until you realize it's not what it is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I kept doing it. I kept
yeah,
climbing,
yeah.
climbing, climbing, climbing. Um, and I think I personally needed to fall,
Okay.
but if I could take that back, absolutely, I would go for all the opportunities that I would have had to be the person that I wanted to be and who
Mhm.
God wanted to be at a much earlier age, much earlier age. I'd have got, I'd have been down the road much further and able to be more impactful. But that was my journey. That was what God had for me, and what it took me to get me to purposeful living and living,
Sure.
my soul purpose.
Yeah.
That's what it took for me, and everybody's path is different. My wife is much different than me. She's settled, and everything with her has always been kind of. She's had a plan, and she's taken
Mm.
it, and she's not too high, too low. She's consistent,
Yeah.
um, which has also helped me. Being able to be comfortable where you are. Again,
Sure.
I'm a running gunner. I'm still doing it. As you know, in
Yes.
the programming that I design, every year it's something different. It's
Right.
something more, it's something greater. But why I'm doing it is for a greater purpose now.
Right.
So,
But I love that how you speak about her and that fact that she's consistent, and that's an offset for you to help neutralize kind of where you are, and that's a gift. And then
strength
and then you go back to that whole relationship situation, and we
that
talk about how that benefits you as a whole, and not just husband and wife, but like, parents and siblings and friendships, boyfriends, girlfriends, all of that. So for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Consistency is as good as showing up is half the battle,
I
right? I
love
mean,
that.
just showing up with the right attitude is half the battle.
Yeah.
From there, you're going to win, lose, draw, a lot of different things. But if you don't show up and you have your mindset isn't right, then you're not even in the game.
Yeah.
My wife shows up consistently, and it is absolutely the strength of our family.
Oh,
And I couldn't do what I do without somebody like that. Again, God put me with somebody who I didn't even think I wanted to be with, that type of person.
right, right.
At a time when I was searching, when I was sick and doing things and trying to get back on my feet, at a time when I would have been acceptive of a person like that and see how how that is strong. I probably would have
Mhm.
looked on that as, hey, settled people, what are you doing?
That's
And it
boring,
turned
yeah.
out to be
It's
that's it's harder to be that sometimes. It's that strong person, that
right.
backbone. Consistent is really hard to be. Often
Mhm.
consistent people win the race, right? It's just like the
Right,
turtle and the hare. Who won? Ah,
right,
hare never won that race. you
right.
know, consistency, showing up and doing what you're supposed to do within your purpose, whether
Yes.
it's flashy or not, wins.
I heard, did you watch the Olympics with, the male gymnast that came out to do the pommel horse? Stephen?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that
so
was awesome.
I loved that, and he talked with a reporter about his goal. I think this was in the individuals. His goal was to be consistent. He came in and said, "I just need to be consistent. That's my goal because I've trained in other capacities to win, and I've failed. But went in with a different mindset about being consistent, and that was my goal, and I was gonna be happy with it no matter what because I knew that was what I was working towards, and that was my guide. That was where I was. Look
That's
what
uh,
happened.
yeah. There's a lot of wisdom to that, right? And it just takes us. We're not born with those things. I don't think any of us are born with that type of mindset. I think, especially in this world, social media and everything wants to put a picture out there that you don't really want to show. That you don't really want to go that deep, into who you actually are. You want to put something out there that you're not. Um, and when you can find that consistent purpose and lock into it and show up and do those things, I think people become great,
Yeah,
and I love that. I love that. And it can be in so many different aspects. It's not just sport.
absolutely.
It's all aspects of life.
For sure. What can you tell me has been one of the most fulfilling things for you in your life thus far? If you had to say. I mean, there's probably as I'm listening to you talk, there's a handful of them that I could probably pick out for you, but what would you
Well,
say?
the low hanging fruit for me are my six children,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the household that my wife has helped me create here for them.
Yes.
Again, community is everything to me, and it starts with my own community, my own
Right,
family, and the
right.
greater community of my mom and my dad and our cousins. We're all very close. It takes a village, and we have a village, and we've all had to make sacrifices in where we live and what we do to create it.
Yeah.
So for me, that is the most that's the greatest thing in my life, no doubt about that.
Mm,
But on a professional level, probably being able to do what I'm doing at 1440 now.
yeah.
It's been elevated, and it's been, like I said, from the time I was 30 years old. This has been a work in progress as it keeps ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And beach volleyball is getting to a really the highest point it's ever been at, and the
Yes.
opportunities. When we started this thing in 2012 is when they announced it was going to be an emerging college sport. Before 2012, there was no I wasn't going to be a juniors coach. I wasn't coaching juniors. There was no reason for any of us to do that because there were no
Right,
clubs and there was no high school and there was no college and
right,
no USAA. And there's no programming. Why would you do it? It would have been just going to have backyard fun at the beach playing volleyball.
right.
When they announced that in 2012, I got to work. I loved it. I loved hearing it, and um, got to work and starting to work with youth and all those kind of things. And that's all down to this where we're at now with
Right.
P1440, where I have a lot of wisdom behind it and people behind me to support me and finances and things to help grow my vision,
Mhm.
and people to speak their vision into it and make it even better.
Yeah.
um, has been probably it's like it is definitely my soul work.
Yes.
And
I
it
would
just continues to get more and more and more on the daily. Now I got to stay within my box, which the Lord's been working with me my whole life on that ready, fire, aim, because I want to go to the next and the next and the next and the next,
yeah.
absolutely on a daily basis. So I have to stay
Yeah.
very grounded with,
Yeah.
again, my family and the things that I do, and control what I do, not work myself into an early grave.
Right.
Trying to reach again. We're trying to push again things further than it's in my capacity to do. So
Yeah.
that's actually still my biggest battle all the time is don't
Just,
do
like,
too
pulling
much.
back and
Yeah, yeah, I
being
do.
able to
I have to pull back. I have to pull back and say, okay, you're going in too many different directions, even if they're good directions.
yeah, yeah.
And stay focused. Stay focused. That's my prayer life right there. Is
Stay
Lord,
focused.
put me where you want me to be and give me the opportunities to do the things you want me to do, not
Right,
necessarily the things that I want to do. Because
right.
I lead my own stuff pretty well unless I
Well, I
listen.
think we all do though, Rob. I really do. I think that's just the worldly kind of innate ego of all of us. It's really hard to just take all of that. You talk about compartmentalizing earlier, taking that whole idea because that's never going to be something that we don't have in
No,
our capacity to have to deal with. But being able to put that over here and really, truly, honestly going deep internally and saying, okay, your opportunities put me where I need to work for you. Put me where I need to do the best for my community, for my family, for the
yeah,
relationships I have. And that
yeah,
can be really hard because it can be completely left of center from what we're normally like our ego
yes.
is telling us to
And,
do.
and I think in our society, unless it goes back to our foundation, what is your foundation?
Mm,
Who are
yeah.
you? And that's what I have to keep. I have to go back to that and go, okay, who am I and who has God made me to be? And is this thing that I'm thinking about in that fit into that lane? At the age that I'm at now, I know what I'm pretty good at and I know what I'm not. So when I try to push into some of those other areas, it usually doesn't work out very well.
Mm,
So
mhm.
now it's a lot easier for me to distinguish, I think, where God wants me. Whereas when I was younger and young kids, and it's hard. That's really, really
Sure,
hard.
sure.
But the foundation in Christ, it being freeing for me, is kind of the game changer.
Yeah.
And I have there's an end game that's written, and all I'm doing is doing the best I can with what I'm given now to give to others and get to the end game, whatever God has for me.
Yeah.
And that's the most freeing way of life, I think, that you can live.
Yeah. If you could give a nugget of advice, kind of one piece on what you just spoke about, on being able to relinquish that ego and just being open to opportunities that we don't necessarily have those blinders on and say, this is the way I want it to be. This is how it has to look. This is how it's got to be delivered. All those things. How do you, as a coach for juniors players, help to glean that information to those youth that are high achievers, that are A-type personalities, that are
Yeah,
like go, go, go nonstop, kind of similar to kind of how
yeah,
you are.
yeah. I relate well to that, so I see it pretty easily. And we do get with a lot of the elite players and whatnot. So for me, I have to take it off volleyball. I have to take it off volleyball and find what they're passionate about in another way. And that's what I would say is live your passion.
Yeah.
And that can take you in a lot of different directions, and the world will tell you money and fame and fortune and all these things. And again, millionaires are not happy. A lot of them, it's not,
Right.
it's a facade. It's kind of the scam. Here's what you think it is, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
it's
For sure.
it's finding your purpose and building a community around it that serves the community, that serves the people, and
Yeah.
builds relationships. If you can do that, that's what I think people should strive for. I would say do that. What are you good at? If you think you're good at something, you feel really inspired by it, then that's probably something that God's given you as a passion. And why
Yeah.
not make that what you want to do? Maybe that should
Right.
be what you do, since you're probably gifted at that. I mean,
Right.
let's find your purpose and your gifting, and let's go build your life around that.
Yeah.
Not on the periphery things that we think will get you there, because those of us have gone down that path and had some success in those areas. It doesn't fulfill.
Right. Right. I love that too, because it can give them have permission to explore other opportunities and
Yeah,
other things they may be interested in, but not necessarily sure if it's, this has been my drive for so long. These are other things that can complement. Actually, those things can
absolutely.
complement that drive and that game that you're in, whether you're in beach volleyball, whether you're in football, whether you're in baseball, whether you're in a high pressure job, all of those different things, those
Mhm.
outside other situations that you say, okay, these are my gifts. How can I be led to allow those to be a part of my life and complement the things that I'm doing so I can find a
Yeah,
balance?
I think compliment, like you just said, is a big word there, because you get better at all of them when you build around all those things that you do. You get better.
Oh, for sure.
When you bring your giftings off, if it's beach volleyball, obviously if you're an elite athlete, you're playing beach volleyball, that's definitely a gift that doesn't come by, you have to be athletic, you have to be smart. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that. But what
Yes.
got you, those gifts also can be used in a lot of different divergent ways that will actually make you a better beach volleyball player and better at the other things that you're doing off the court. So I think it's a puzzle. It's a
Yeah.
puzzle, and the whole picture is only found when it's all used together.
Yeah.
Um, and when you take it, as we said earlier in our conversation, and you take one part out of it and get your value and your purpose and your drive just in that area, and it's very you centered, then I think that's unfortunately in our society where a lot of us get stuck.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. I can say, as we were kind of wrapping up here, I know what your why is after listening to you, but I want to give you the opportunity to give more feedback on that. Just kind of in closing before we start to wrap it up. What really is your why now, here in this present moment?
Yeah, passion, purpose, for the end goal of serving God on a daily. That's my why. Again, my vehicle is beach volleyball. That may change in 2 years. My vehicle may be something else, physically, mentally. I don't know where I'll be or what I'll do or what'll happen to me. But
Right.
what I've been gifted with, the purpose that I have, and the abilities that I have, I need to put the work to glorify the kingdom, and for me, serving community and building community. I mean, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's my why. That's why I get up every morning. If I didn't have that to get up every morning too, you know, I'd feel a little lost probably. So that's my thing.
Oh, Rob, I love that. I have so enjoyed this conversation, and I've learned stuff about you after knowing you for a handful of years that I did
Yes.
not know.
Yes,
So, I mean, that's it. It gives me that information of you really are living a purpose-filled life. You
I
know?
am. I am
Yeah.
very blessed and very thankful. And I just want that to be the message, like I just said, that really people, hopefully they take away from what I do. I don't want them to just think I'm a volleyball coach. That's not, again, that's my vehicle. It's not what I do.
Yeah. You're Rob. Rob the person.
Yes.
Rob the man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go, would you be down to do some rapid fire questions just to kind of have some fun
Yeah.
to wrap it up?
Absolutely. Go
Okay.
for
So
it.
these are always good. They're always kind of just showing a whole other side of your personality, which I think is going to be interesting. And I will warn you that my rapid fire questions are usually not like this fast. They're usually
Okay.
like
I'm
pretty
in.
involved, but we'll go for it. Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm going to give you question number one. What is your go-to pastime?
Movies.
Oh, okay. Favorite
Yeah.
movie?
Favorite movie, probably West Side Story. Old
Oh,
ones.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have never guessed it. I
Old
here
ones.
I am
I like
saying,
musicals. I do. I
okay.
like musicals.
Can you sing?
You will have to ask the people around me that question. I think I can. Probably can't.
They may
My
say something different.
Yeah, you have to say something to my wife.
Okay.
Next time
I'll
you
ask
see her.
her next time I see her. All right. Question number two. What never fails to make you laugh?
Um, this is bad, but it's potty jokes.
Oh, no.
Potty jokes are they just do, and my kids and everybody, rock dad, but they just do simple jokes like that. Potty jokes. They're poo poo, pee pee. I don't know. People that know me know that for the most part,
All
but
right.
always makes me laugh. It's
That's
my
perfect.
go-to.
Okay. Question number three. Do you have a bucket list?
I gosh, I don't. I don't have a specific bucket list because I feel like I'm living my purpose, my dream. I don't even think about retirement. That seems like a kind of something I don't think about. This is what I want to be doing. Um, and every day I get up wanting to do it right now. So I don't really have a long-term bucket list. I've traveled a lot
Yeah.
already. So that's not it. There isn't any specific, I wouldn't say that I have a specific bucket list. Sorry to
Okay.
disappoint in that one.
No, disappointing. I think it's really invaluable to hear you say, like, because it makes sense after listening to you talk here that your bucket list is literally you're living it every day.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's awesome. And I think that's something that not a lot of people can really wrap their heads around, from a
Yeah.
bigger picture.
You got took me a long time to get there, but I'm there.
Good. All right. All right.
Some days better than others.
Well, yes, for sure. Definitely. All right. Question number four. What record do you think you have a shot at breaking?
Oh, at this point, wow. I don't know what record I would have a shot at breaking. You mean if I could go after any of it and train for it, or do I reality have a chance to break?
It could be anything. It could be like a wood splitting competition. It could be sheep shearing. It
You
could
know
be
what I'd like to have? I'd like to set the record for, how they did that indoors and had this year at the collegiate game, the most people in attendance ever at an indoor game at
yeah,
Nebraska. I would
yeah.
like to do that in beach volleyball. I would
Okay.
like to have on a beach the most people that ever attended a beach volleyball game. I would
Okay.
like to do that.
I think
That
you
would be
could
cool.
spearhead.
That'd probably be a big undertaking, but I'm going to have somebody to help me do that someday.
Okay. I love that. All right. There we go. We're putting that back here.
Put it
Check.
back there.
There you go. All right. I'll give you one more. This is probably a little bit deeper, but it's a good one to kind of wrap up. And gives us, again, a little bit more depth about where you come from. What is the best advice that you have ever received?
Oh boy, I've received a lot of good advice. Um, but honestly, kind of my dad just telling me to speak. Don't let your actions speak louder than your words.
Yeah.
And in the humility of that.
Oh,
That's what he always has really preached and really lived for me. So that's kind of that's what I probably would say.
yeah. Living with humility. It sounds like you're bred in that vein, if you will, through your
Yeah,
family.
and let your actions speak for you. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to do that. Just what you do and who you are, be your voice.
I love that. Be your voice. Yeah. Let your actions be your voice. I
Yeah,
love it, Rob. Yay, Rob. This has been so delightful.
that's
I have
great.
enjoyed this.
I'm thank you for having me. I really appreciate being able to get to talk about other things than just volleyball sometimes.
Right?
And now that you know me a little more, you're probably gonna go, oh gosh, this guy's really out there somewhere. But
No, I'm not. No, but I will say, I'll your go-to pastime. I will make some West Side Story references
you're
probably next time I see you.
good, good.
All good, all good. Rob, have a wonderful rest of your day, a
Thank you.
wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy
Thank
time
you.
with your family.
Absolutely. You too. We'll see you.
I All right,
Thanks for
thanks,
having me.
Rob.
Alrighty.
You got it.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.